One of the biggest things for me in my personal life is the suppression of our voice. I think a previous caller mentioned that as well. Personally, I don't see that changing anytime soon. That film came out earlier this year. I can't remember the name of it now.
The one with
Uh,
Aisha about the,
yes,
yeah.
I'm sure you know there were like protests all over the UK. All these like gatherings outside of cinemas that pressured cinemas to stop showing it or not show it at all. The last, I've actually had I've been on live call with you before. I think it was your second or third live call, so it was quite a while ago. And at the time, I spoke to you about how I was working in theatre. I still am. So we were writing a play about a teenager who was just going through a lot in life, like bullying and stuff like that. And he grew up in a Muslim household and had to sort of explore his sexuality and his identity, and eventually realized that his faith was hurting him a lot more than it was helping him. And the play definitely showed both sides of the coin, like the good parts that a Muslim community can offer to society as a whole, which, mind you, I personally think are very few, but everyone is pushing for it to show both sides of the story.
I
Um,
mean, it's good to be fair. I don't know if showing both sides of the story in an equal sense is fair. You know what I mean? Like perhaps they're overrepresenting out of carefulness. They want to be like, but there's a lot
yeah,
of
yeah. So
amazing things.
I
Yeah.
was directing and wrote most of the play, but it was supposed to be a team effort. So lots of my co-writers and the co-director had to have lots of input and really wanted to include lots of stuff that, while not necessarily I think are true, were like pandering. But as a whole, I guess it was very much the story of an ex-Muslim and the stuff he goes through as an ex-Muslim. And that was supposed to be performed at a theatre in November. And 2 months ago, I got a notice from my lecturer who was organizing the whole event. She didn't have any say in the story, just that it had to be aimed at a younger audience and that it was going to be performed at a specific theatre. And this was during all the protests about that film. And I got a letter from my lecturer saying that we can't perform this play anymore and that she's working with a few different students to like completely rewrite it and made it about a woman who was getting bullied for wearing a hijab, but eventually like overcame it and showed how virtuous and feminist uh, Islam really is. And my blood
That's such a
boiled.
slap to the face. I'm so sorry. I'm angry right now.
Mm,
Not because, because people might hear this and think, oh, so you don't want Muslim women to not be bullied because of the hijab. No, it's the using them as a virtue signal, like look at how, Muslim women are so bullied when the bully in this situation is Muslims who don't want you to tell the story.
Yeah, I mean the story of this girl being bullied. This news story is about a girl who's going to a predominantly white school, getting bullied by her white classmates.
Isn't that the
But the fact
stereotypical
is,
like feel bad for brown people story? Like it
yeah,
happens, but the amount of people ex-Muslims who are hurt by their families dwarfs the amount of girls who are bullied by white in white schools. Like, you know what I mean? It's
I
sad.
totally agree. Yeah,
And it's not just that this story is being told. I wouldn't be upset about someone writing a play about a hijabi being bullied and whatnot. I'd be upset about how they're framing it as a feminist thing Islamically. But the fact that it replaces your play, I'm so sorry. This is extremely frustrating.
yeah. For me, it was like the worst thing, the worst news of the year. But yeah, I'm really quite gutted about that. It was like the biggest production I've ever made. Something that really resonated with me. He said that yeah, sure, you might not be able to play at this theatre at this specific time, but keep that play and one day it will be performed. And I'm just hoping that that's true.
I hope so as well. I was going to say how proud I am of you for writing that to begin with. And I'm sorry that you didn't see it come to fruition, but it's not the end of the line.
Yeah, I mean, it's not just like it was my own work either. It was lots of people had a hand in it. There were 18 people like working together on this play just to conceptualize it and write it all out and direct it and everything. And then we had obviously the cast as well. I think we were all just quite shocked. But I guess I expected a bit too much to think that something like that could be acceptable right now.
No, because then your conclusion is that you were too hopeful and that we should manage our expectations and not hope for good things because, not right now, but when.
Oh well, it will be performed one day, and I want it to be on the in the biggest theater in the world, and it's gonna happen.
That's more like it.
But yeah, it's I guess that was sort of like the biggest news for me personally.
Well, I have to say that was extremely unique, and I really appreciate you sharing this with us today. And I'm sorry that this is what happened to you, but I hope it gives you motivation to keep going.
Regarding the hijab, I mean, everybody says a choice, but it wasn't a choice for me. Neither was it for my sisters or for any of the friends that I know. I mean, I used to say it was a choice too before I became an ex-Muslim. That's the funny thing about it.